Hi and welcome to IndigoStarfire. My name is Bevin, and in this video I'm going to be looking into what are their thoughts and feelings about you and the connection today. There are 4 groups to choose from. Group 1 is the Smokey Quartz point. Group 2 is the Pyrite cluster. Group 3 is the Fairy Quartz point. And group 4 is the Chrysoprase. So if you want to take a moment to center, focus on your breathing, and feel whichever group, maybe multiple groups or perhaps all of the groups that you're most drawn to. I'll give you a minute to make your selection and then we'll get right into it. And there are timestamps in the description box of the video for each group if you would like to jump ahead. Hi, Group 1. You chose the Smokey Quartz point. So I'm going to start with some oracle cards to get a general overview of what are their thoughts and feelings about you today, and then I'll clarify with some tarot. Okay, so we have the Cayman and Poppy, dreams. The Snail and Huckleberry, trust in the invisible. The Vulture and Asphodel, upheaval. The Eel and Iris, safety. Deal, hunt, love, and sacred. So this person is definitely seeing you as very goal-oriented at this point in time, very fixed and focused on maybe chasing a dream, a goal, some kind of like higher calling or purpose, maybe only that you can see at this point in time. It may still be in the phases of being developed, being brought down from the immaterial plane into the material world. It almost feels to be something like a deal or a contract that you've made with your higher self or your spirit guides, where you are co-creating with the universe, very much focused on that, cultivating abundance for yourself. This idea of upheaval can talk about disconnect that has happened in terms of focus or energy that you at one point in time were investing in the connection. Maybe this is someone that has left you hanging, someone that has left you with a lot of questions, that was very wishy-washy before or had even run from the connection. And they're really sensing that you've turned a corner, you've directed your focus elsewhere. The prize that you at one point had your eye on, with this idea of like hunt and this hawk kind of energy where you were laser focused, you have now chosen to move in another direction. There's another prize that you are working toward, and they're seeing it as something where you're achieving a lot of success in that capacity. It feels a little bit like they're feeling really left out, like they've missed out on something, maybe feeling a bit neglected, even though they gave you kind of mixed signals or almost gave you no choice but to turn and focus elsewhere. And this has been like an abrupt sense of an upheaval, almost like this giant void or vacancy has now been created energetically from them and within them, where at one point in time all of your attention or a lot of your attention was focused upon them. to where it's helping them to put into perspective how they may have taken you for granted in the past. A little bit of almost kind of like going through energetic withdrawals as well, because they're not getting that constant sort of feeding to that source of all of that attention flowing in their direction, which has been feeding them energy, energy in a very kind of like neutral sense, neither positive nor negative, but it feels like something that they didn't really appreciate just how maybe sustaining, or how much this added to a sense of self-importance on their part. Even if they had pushed you away, it was something like enjoying that they were needed or wanted by somebody. Even if this is really like an unrequited love sort of circumstance, or they've rejected you, there was something where that was really helping to like boost their self-esteem in some manner. It was really kind of like feeding their lower nature or their ego in a certain manner. And now they're kind of left to sort of fend for themselves, deal with kind of like the scraps of what remains, kind of this, as the energy is sort of like fading away, there may just be sort of like whiffs of that they are able to get. It feels like it's almost causing them to sort of pivot around and move into chaser mode to try and get your attention in some kind of way. This can be something where this could spark and pivot like a return of this person if you're in a no contact situation. They're coming through maybe with a bit of like empty promises, but it may even be something where, this redirection of focus upon self is just what they have needed in order to more deeply appreciate how much this connection truly means to them, and perhaps a bit of fear-based conditioning lack within themselves that had caused them to run from the type of love that you were offering in the past. This idea here with the starfish and sacred is talking about energy of reconciliation, wanting to regenerate the connection, or again, like get your attention in some manner, a sense of wanting you to invest in them in the same way you had been doing previously. It might be with kind of sort of like an energy of kind of like the lack of something, or the remnants or residue of something with this vulture here on this card, that they're almost kind of like picking at the bare bones of a circumstance. You have, not just redirected your focus, but you're actually experiencing a lot of abundance in that aspect of co-creating with the universe, focusing on self-love, becoming that love that you are seeking, becoming that change in the world that you are seeking, and really magnetizing things in that are not like an opposites attract situation, but it's really like attracts like. And so it's challenging this person to kind of like grow and evolve within themselves, to rise to meet you at this new level, or to kind of like figure out and solve some things within them, maybe with this idea of like and safety, a bit of insecurity within them, maybe like a fear of commitment, a feeling of not being good enough, not being able to kind of like match up, a sense of, again, like really enjoying in the past that they were needed and wanted by you, that attention, it almost feels like for a lot of people it had sort of leaned into more of a negative stance, like they were almost addicted to that energy. They had almost like made a deal with the devil, sort of in that capacity of just taking and not giving a whole lot back. And now that source, that kind of place that was feeding into them, now that in the form of your attention, now that this has been directed elsewhere, they kind of don't know what to do. They're struggling to almost fill this void, or start to understand this void within themselves. A lot of fear-based thinking, kind of a sense of panic, the rug almost being pulled out from under them, which may really kind of interestingly mirror or represent like a turning of the tables from what they had done with you previously. So definitely this person has been shaken up by something that you've done, and also with this idea of like the snail, this kind of like slow and steady progress. It feels like something where they're kind of in shock at this point in time of kind of not having that energetic, almost like security blanket, the sense of safety that was very predictable. Even if they were pushing you away or running, they almost could guarantee, or had been really betting on the fact that you would continue to pursue them, that your energy in some way was going to be that motivational push, almost like that gust that was pivoting them toward the direction of other things for themselves, whether that was deeper into their own toxicity, or just in some way was almost like used as an upswing swing toward other goals. And now that they don't have that kind of additional source for themselves, they're really having to self-sustain. They're really having to like piece this all together and kind of take it apart for themselves, really dissect and say, what was the motivation here? Kind of like what within me was lacking that was so needing or like used to or fixated on this dynamic, and maybe done things to construct this dynamic. This may be like a tendency within this person to kind of like have people that chase, give only enough to sort of entice, and then turn the tables on people. And then they have a lot of people pursuing the idea of like, we pursue that which retreats from us. And this may have been something that is kind of an ongoing pattern for this person throughout their life. Something though with this connection where, unlike a lot of people maybe, or, you know, sooner than they had expected or hoped, you gave up that chase, and it's caused them to really almost like fall down into themselves in some manner. And it's something where, you know, it's this slow and steady kind of climb into this place of self-awareness, into this sense of figuring out kind of what's my motivation here? Why do I do these things? For a lot of people, it could have been very unconscious. This is just like a learned behavior, some kind of like a survival mechanism, a coping mechanism, you know, kind of somebody with a lot of codependent tendencies. And so it doesn't feel that they're at the point of really having turned a corner with that in any way, not really starting to do that healing work necessarily within themselves. They feel just very much in panic, kind of like, well, where did all this energetic pressure go? Even though, you know, paradoxically enough, they may have been the one to really push you away. So you startled this person, energetically speaking, through your kind of like your choice to invest in yourself, or to reinvest in yourself, to direct those attentions more deeply towards self-love. They are either recognizing that in what they're able to observe from afar, but it feels like for a lot of you, this is just an energetic sensation of all of a sudden something that was like a source of empowerment for them has been taken away, and they're kind of at a loss. They're kind of like searching or scrambling, trying to figure out what changed, what happened, where did that sort of power source, where did that that food source of energy and attention, where did that go? How do I get that back into my reality? So I'm going to get a few tarot cards just to get a little more clarification about this for you. Okay, so we've got the Five of Wands, which is fire energy, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Ten of Swords, which is air energy, Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra. Six of Cups, which is water energy, Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. And the Hermit, which is Virgo. So this Hermit is really reminding me of the sense of being very much alone. It feels like they've kind of like wandered off into this outer realm, these outer regions maybe, and just you know, this full force kind of like fleeing from you at some point in time, and that now that you have redirected your attentions and energies elsewhere, they're almost kind of at a loss. It's a long journey back to self. It's a sense of like having just sort of this glimmer of hope, this kind of very dull light by which to kind of figure out and find their bearings at this point in time. Almost like they're kind of bewildered or sort of flabbergasted, like, why did I run this far? Why did I run this far? Why did I end up here? You know, what's going on in this circumstance? What has changed? What has shifted? They're seeking answers, really kind of like going within. It feels like a sense of empowerment for them in a certain way has been diminished a lot. There is this energy here with the Six of Cups of almost wanting to get your attention in some manner, maybe through even just negative attention. This person could be very kind of like conflict oriented, almost like causing little tantrums or these little outbursts to try and get you to pay attention. You know, these little kind of things, maybe even almost like pretending to be very kind of like wounded or needy, you know, just approaching you like in an energy that predictably before may have elicited your redirection of focus upon them. But it feels like something where, you know, you're just very self-focused. You're focused on other goals. You've kind of, you've given up this game with this person at this point in time, and it's really highlighting for them kind of this lack or loss within. It's really kind of laid bare some sort of an inner child wound, or some kind of just a lack or deficiency within them that has caused them to sort of like enter into this dynamic, almost like somebody who is used to or accustomed to energy and attention, but mostly in the form of like negative energy and attention. Someone who's almost like addicted to chaos or conflict in a sense, to where, you know, the high vibration of love, pure love, you know, positive interactions, although that is a source of energy, it is not almost like their preferred flavor. It's not something that they're accustomed to in their life. This person could almost be kind of like an agent of chaos in a sense. And now they're just kind of in this energy of left with their own thoughts, left to their own devices, and really just sort of scrambling, trying to figure out what changed, what shifted, what caused you to, you know, pull back and direct the other in another way. It feels that it's very like self-focused at this point in time, but nevertheless may be sort of something that, you know, in time, because they're still so focused and directed on kind of like what happened, what changed, how do I get this back, that it is possibly a doorway to them, you know, getting nowhere with these kind of like tantrums and these tactics that may have worked in some manner. It feels like you've just sort of said enough is enough. There's been some kind of glow up or maturation, or just something that's come through some sort of like deep internal wisdom that this may be a repeating cycle or pattern with this individual, and if change needs to be made and is required, you're the one that's going to be that change maker, to where you continuing on your path may be the doorway necessary for them to start to emulate that, to start to try to match that vibration, to take a cue from you, to take an example from you, to really start to kind of look around, and the more that they are looking, they're able to kind of like dig deeper within themselves and say, you know, how do I fill my own cup? What is this void within me that is almost so starved or unable to self-sustain that I will create dissonance just to get that kind of energetic hit, that kind of that push or that elation. So definitely something, again, more of this energy of you've made some sort of an impact upon them. They feel in a very like agitated state, very defeated, very much at a loss, very much kind of in panic mode almost. You know, little outbursts that they may be making that you might not even be paying attention to. Some of you might be seeing this, or maybe they're like posting more on social media, or for some of you this could be somebody that even sort of like reaches out in kind of this neediness, sort of like, help me, give your attention to me, you know, coming back in and sort of the same vibration they were at before. But it feels like for a lot of you, you know, you're working on something else at this time, and don't necessarily have the interest or the patience or the attention or the desire to invest in more of this kind of like immature sort of chaos based energy. So you've proven a point, whether you have wanted to or not in this circumstance. This individual has definitely kind of felt that, and it's kind of sent them into this spiral of sort of panic mode at this point, which is, again, like, it's a door to change for them. It's kind of a spiral to this rock bottom sort of energy, where they are then able to kind of look around and grow and change and sort of introspect and do some self-discovery. Like, this is kind of like a necessary state for this person right now, but they're definitely not sitting in a very comfortable energy about that. They're missing you, they're longing for you, but it feels to be in kind of like a toxic or codependent way at this point in time. So I'm going to get a few messages from their higher self and see what they want to tell you. Okay, and they say, you're not my usual type, but I like it a lot. So this kind of feels to refer to maybe a tendency that this person has to like lead people on, to kind of like hook people energetically speaking, and then when things get too intense, they run. They may have a lot of people that consistently chase them, sort of feed energy into them. Someone who may be difficult, kind of have a difficult time sort of self-sustaining in a way. They may get into a lot of codependent relationships, and the fact that you've put your foot down, you've changed, you've redirected the focus elsewhere. You've been the one to kind of like pull that rug out. You've in the form of directing your attentions and your energies elsewhere. It has really kind of confuse this person, and I'm hearing the word bamboozled. They don't know how this happened. This is so outside of the usual and predictable patterns of how connections go for them, how romantic connections go. They may have a lot of like exes that are really hung up on them, a lot of people that pine for them, kind of like messy breakups and whatnot. And so just your reaction at this point in time is something which has really sort of thrown them for a loop. This is not the status quo. This is not how they expected the situation to play out. But it's something that almost like at the core level, there is this almost like element of gratitude in some way, because you've really kind of thrown a wrench in their plans or just in the status quo for them. And that's a doorway to some kind of deep personal transformation. You have changed things up for them as far as their next steps forward at this point in time, because they're scrambling to kind of like get back into that position of power in a certain way, and you're not participating in that, or you're directing your focus elsewhere. It's something that's really like sending the message home that they need to start looking within. They need to start kind of like cultivating that source of validation from within. And so it's almost like an uncomfortable change, but something within them is almost grateful that somebody finally has like put their foot down to this person. And they also say, I saw myself in you the first second I laid eyes on you. So that feels to be like a very sort of a triggering statement, though, where, they see this kind of, and have seen this softness, this very genuine energy, this very loving energy, the potential for empowerment, maybe even a lot of unactualized potential within you, that they have a hard time recognizing within themselves. This feels like somebody who kind of bases their sense of self-worth on other people validating that. And so parts of you that were very self-sustaining, you were able to kind of like stand in an energy of confidence, build your own self-esteem. You had other things going on in your life. You didn't necessarily need to be sort of like valued based on another person's perception to reinforce that worth. It's a potential that they have also within them that they've been unable to fully access up to this point in time. So somebody who is very much like drawn to you, but at the same time very triggered, because you represent kind of the other side of how they've been living their life. The potential, if they sort of break away or disconnect or have someone that doesn't participate in this kind of like cycle or loop with them. So you challenge them to step into that better version of self by confronting a lot of these wounded aspects that almost kind of like play these games or enter into this same kind of like cat and mouse sort of energy with people. And they also say, I still have so much to accomplish before I can be what you deserve. So that confirms that idea of a lot of growth that they're needing to do. Someone who's needing to really discover that love within themselves, that sense of validation, that sense of worth within themselves that they have been accustomed to acquiring outwardly, maybe through materialism or just having people really desire them, being the one to reject, to push away in order to sort of preserve this false sense of security within themselves, or to really just feed that ego. There's a recognition that, again, it feels like a long-term kind of mechanism or machine, something that may have really been going on from, their early experiences in romance, that now that has been brought to a crashing halt. Feels like you've done something that no one else has done as far as this person is concerned. You've not fed into this drama. You've discontinued playing this game with them. And it's really requiring them to stop and take an inventory. They've been caught by surprise in this situation, and now are at a crossroads of kind of like what to do, how to sort of collect themselves from this point, how to, you know, kind of like gather the lesson out of this, where to from here. It may be something that's really shaken their self-esteem as well. The fact that you're no longer chasing, you're no longer pursuing, this person's no longer like the center of your world in a way. You've directed that focus back to self and back to other things, and the success you're experiencing with that, it encourages you to keep that focus elsewhere. So definitely in a challenging point, a growth period at this point. And they also say, thank you for your beautiful presence in my life. So as much as there may be this resistance, this resentment, they're still kind of having that tantrum. The inner child is acting out because it doesn't have its shiny toy in the same way anymore. It's not getting the same treats or the same validation that it was once getting. From the higher self level, there's a lot of gratitude. It's like, thank you. Thank you for finally being the one person that is going to turn the tables on me, so that I have the opportunity to grow, so that I at least have, you know, a real time tangible experience that mirrors directly what needs to change. What is toxicity? What is an unhealthy pattern? What is getting me nowhere? So definitely a lot of conflict within this person. The ego self, the lower nature, is very kind of resentful and very triggered about all of this. And the higher self is like, thank you for doing this and creating this opening this door, forming this aperture through which growth and evolution and self-reflection is possible. They also say things aren't always as they seem. So they may be trying to, again, kind of like put on a front, you know, create a lot of drama, stir up some kind of chaos, something, you know, a song and dance to kind of like get your attention, making things up, being very dramatic about things, being very loud about things in an effort to, you know, get you to kind of like feed that energy back into them, for better or worse. And it feels to be something that it's just whatever this kind of outburst is, even if this is something where they're very just silent, still in the material world, you may sense them like energetically pulling on you. They may be like coming into dreams a lot, you know, kind of like almost projecting their energy towards you, just trying to like poke or tap or, you know, get that attention in some sort of way, to where it could be kind of annoying or confusing for you, but it really feels to be something that it's very evidentiary of, they have sensed there has been some kind of energetic ripple, whether they're going to be open about that or just, again, like still sort of stonewalling, still keeping things blocked off, or ghosting you in this situation, and yet projecting themselves in your manner, or in your direction to kind of like get that attention in some way. That it's evidence of it really feels like not even this genuine interest at reconciliation at this point. It's just something that's kind of just like, pay attention to me, feed energy back into me the same way that you were. They're still coming from a very like wounded or immature place. And it's something to where like in furtherance of this, almost this choice for yourself, this self-love journey that you're on, this may be the time to set up those healthy boundaries, to really kind of create the structure for this person of like, here's where you end and I begin. If true reconciliation is possible, you're going to have to grow beyond these parameters. And that might be a structure, you know, energetically that's presented to them, or in some sort of ultimatum or conversation in the material world that has to take place, that really provides them with almost the framework of, these are the things that you need to do in order to participate with me once again. They also say you turn loose heaven within me. And it kind of feels like, and I don't know if I can say the other H word, the 4-letter H word here on YouTube, but it feels like both. You turn loose heaven and the opposite within them. They're very triggered at this point in time, and yet the higher self is definitely expressing a lot of gratitude that you have done this. That this may have been a very hard decision. This may have been a very long-term sense of like a push-pull dynamic. This may even be your twin flame, to where you know, you feel so energetically connected to them that this might have been one of the hardest decisions to redirect that focus onto self, despite all of these kind of like signs, all of this connectedness. This may have been a very long time in the making of you taking your power back from this situation, and it's something which is almost, it's loosened the two of you from some particular like toxic or limited dynamic that you have had with one another. You are really the change maker in this circumstance. Your focus onto yourself and onto other things is really putting the ball back in this person's court. Like, fix yourself, grow, evolve, learn to love yourself, rather than just kind of leeching that loving energy or that vibration or that attention off of other people. So it's a challenging point at this stage, but it feels like something that there's really only one direction to go. It's only up from here. You know, they've been kind of backed into a corner in some manner and are kind of protesting that, but there's a lot of growth potential here. And they also say your beauty cascades over me. So this is tying into someone who's a bit addicted to your energy. You have a very beautiful spirit. You have a very loving energy about you. It's tying in with this idea of like turning heaven loose within them. You know, you represent this very angelic presence, and they may be sitting in that lower energy, that kind of devil nature at this point in time. A lot of mirrored energies here. You know, this idea of like, I saw myself in you the first second I laid eyes on you. You represent a lot of this untapped potential within them. You know, your growth urges them in that direction, but it also really kind of brings with it this understanding of there's no more free lunch. This isn't a free ride. You're going to have to like do the work within yourself in order to reach that place that is vibrationally and, you know, maybe even in life that is being mapped out in the form of the others. So you're definitely the trailblazer in this circumstance, and this person's almost just like watching you in the material world or watching you energetically kind of sail away from them in a sense, step back into your own power, and it's bringing in a sense of panic, but also this urge to try and like find a way, build a bridge towards you and kind of like reach that same level as you. And they also say, I'm so sorry for not giving you the time and attention you deserve. So a part of them knows that this was not a reciprocal connection. This is very much a situation where, at least in the last phase of this cycle between the two of you, they've largely been the one who's taking, giving very little, you know, creating this element of kind of like imbalance and need on their part. And, you know, it's really kind of setting that message home that they need to start self-sustaining. They need to be able to fill their own cup on their own first in order to enter into a different kind of partnership with you or even with other people in the future. Something that's based on reciprocity rather than like need and take, which may have been sort of the stance that they were in previously. That might have been sort of their trend or pattern recently, or just for the duration of kind of their life in general, or when it comes to romance. And they also say, I remember you. So it feels like they're thinking back on a lot of things that you may have said, dreams you may have talked about. They remember, you know, that you had said, I really want to do this one day. You know, I'm working towards this, and they're seeing a lot of that in motion. It feels like maybe success that you're having in the actual world, in the material world, as far as cultivating abundance for yourself. They're seeing these examples or feeling that change in your energy, and it's bringing back to that time where this was just a dream. It was just a wish, and you've taken steps to move toward that, to cultivate that vibration within you. And it's for a lot of you coming in terms of material manifestations as well. And so, you know, they're thinking back on that. How did you go from just this this hope or this possibility or this kind of like dream that was a little bit out of reach to you know, being in such close proximity to that, or kind of like living that better life, living that best life. This is someone who's kind of like retracing those steps in a sense to sort of find a way to almost reach you, meet you on that level, or, you know, a bit of consideration like, how do I mimic this? How do I chameleon this? It feels to be something that's still in the energy though of kind of like taking at this point in time. Like, did they leave any clues around? Did they remember to shut every door and kind of like open portal, energetically speaking? Someone who's trying to kind of like find a way in, find a way to kind of be like a stowaway as you are, you know, rising in your vibration and energy. So still operating in a bit of like distortion within themselves, but really seeing you, seeing the circumstances, seeing how everything has played out from a different angle and a different perspective. And this energy of like tantrum right here. Their wounded inner child just very much at the forefront of their manifested self at this point in time, you know, bringing that out into the light, bringing it up from where it may have just sort of dwelled and kind of was playing with strings, you know, behind the scenes, a little bit of that puppet master energy of like a mischievous wounded child. A lot of that is now closer to the surface to where they're more easily able to see that it can't just be ignored or overlooked. It's right in their face. They don't feel comfortable at this point in time. They feel very agitated, very anxious, very like irate and disturbed at this point in time. And so it really is, again, that opportunity to like self-soothe, to find some new coping mechanisms, you know, to be that kind of like source of nurturing for themselves as their sort of supply line of that, you know, angelic kind of like loving harmonious frequency has now sort of moved on to other things, or stepped up in a way, in a vibration. It's challenging them to kind of remember to go within and sort of like find that that source of love and kind of like peace or validation that they had at one point in time really been relying upon from outside of themselves. And they also say, I feel so much beauty, harmony, sweetness, and shelter between us. So again, your energy is very addicting. As much as this is someone who has pushed you away, maybe in the past, has run, has tried to, you know, play hard to get. They love the fact that you are pursuing them. It really fed into like a toxic part of them. It was something, it doesn't feel like it was very reciprocal, and it's something where it's kind of like a harsh truth at this point in time that they're sitting in, of needing to sort of like find that beauty within, find that harmony within, find that sweetness within that they were almost relying on you for. This definitely could have been somebody that would consistently come to you like in a bad mood, just sort of like dump their negative energy. You had to transmute a lot for this person, and they were bringing very little in general, or even just recently, as far as, you know, compliments or things that really added to the measure of your existence. Just a lot of drama and chaos. And so by you sort of taking your power back and loving yourself enough to know that you deserve better, you deserve more than participating with energies like that, you know, for long periods of time, or just in this sort of repetition of like one-sidedness, it's really encouraging this individual to sort of go within, seek, find, and eliminate all those barriers within themselves, to unleashing the source of these things that they also hold within. This almost feels like somebody who's kind of operating from like low self-esteem, an aspect where they don't really feel that they have these beautiful qualities within. That is why they seek them outwardly. That's why they create these dramas and kind of this energy of needing to like run and have people chase, because they don't like themselves very much. They don't feel very good within themselves. This is a lack that they are needing to work on at this point in time. And by you no longer sort of participating in that drama with them, it's really setting the message home that, you know, they need to start working on this within themselves. That, you know, they can't keep relying on kind of like outside people, outside attentions to be that sort of source of validation. So a crucial point in time right now where, you know, they're needing to grow, they're needing to evolve. Their thoughts and feelings for you are really kind of like very hangry. They're hankering for that energy and for that attention, feeling a bit of frustration that you're not just so easily or readily kind of like giving that over to them. But then again, there's like this higher self energy coming in here that is saying thank you for choosing you, because now it really opens the stage for divine intervention to happen, for their own higher self to try and work with them, for the universe to try and work with them. So much of their attention is not just engaged in like keeping up this facade that kept you in pursuit. Now they just have themselves to sit with at this point in time, which is where growth and change is possible. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Okay, we've got B, U, Q, V, E, M, R, K, G, X, and F. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of that out as well. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn Tarot. And there's a link to that second channel in the description box of the video, as well as in the channel section of my page. The format over there is a little different from here, so maybe you want to check that out. There could be something interesting over there. It's topics about spirituality, self-love, and wellness, pick-a-cards, and general energy readings. So I thank you for your support over there, as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 2. You chose the Pyrite cluster. So I'm going to start with some oracle cards to get a general overview about this person's thoughts and feelings about you and the connection right now, and then I'll clarify with some tarot. Okay, so we have the eel and iris, safety. The coyote and datura, deceit. The bobcat and blackthorn, patience. The badger and ginkgo, healing wounds. Heal. Peace. Work. And stillness. So this person is seeing you as somebody who is actively participating in changing your narrative arc in some manner. You may be extremely focused on loving yourself, healing yourself. You may be in a very self-protective vibration at this point in time. You may have really almost like trimmed the grass in your life recently, cut off a lot of people, cut off a lot of distractions, cut off a lot of kind of like unnecessary things that you are focusing on, energetic drains. You've tightened up your circle in some manner. You've tightened up your routine. You've become very serious or fixated on something that may have become apparent to you recently, like some kind of wound that has been mirrored to you, some greater kind of like access to part of your shadow, a glimpse into that, or something that was very directly manifested in your reality. Maybe something that was like a painful ending, a harsh truth or a reality, perhaps related to the circumstance with this person, or almost something else that might have kind of been a reoccurring pattern within yourself, where with this idea of deceit, you almost were wearing these rose-colored glasses, or you weren't able to truly perceive the root of, you know, some kind of like wound within you, and how that manifested for ways in which you were moving through the world, ways in which you were valuing yourself or devaluing yourself, the kind of company you were keeping, the people you were letting into your life, the way you were kind of projecting yourself out into the world. There's a sense of really prioritizing your own peace and harmony, even if that comes at the expense of, you know, relationships, learning to really say no at this point in time. Again, just very like self-protective. You really have put up some And it doesn't even feel like it's not coming from a wounded place. This is almost just like closed for spiritual maintenance. It's kind of the vibration that this person is understanding about you at this point in time. It's giving me this idea of somebody that you've been in no contact with, you've been at a distance from for a while, but they've been like watching you, kind of just like silently sort of observing you, taking note of what you're doing, applauding you very silently and very kind of like quietly and internally, but taking notice of this. Someone who may have been really sort of tracking your progression or your evolution over a period of time, to where you may have just kind of wrapped up a cycle, or you are wrapping up a cycle for yourself about something that may have been like a long-term issue. This may have manifested in the circumstance with this person. It could have like led to a sense of no contact. If this is like a twin flame situation, this definitely can talk about parallel paths and things that both twins are needing to work on individually to heal. And there's a sense of bravery with this, something that has been a long-standing just like subconscious wound, root wound. It's bringing forth this idea of like Chiron, like the asteroid Chiron in one's natal chart, the idea of the wounded healer, something related to that, that's almost like, because like even in astrology and when people are considering natal charts, you know, the incorporation of like Chiron in terms of that, this is like relatively speaking a recent kind of focus for people at this point in time. It hasn't like always historically been part of what people think about when they look at natal charts or when they're reading that and whatnot. So this almost feels to be something that was really flying under the radar for you. Maybe, you know, if you're drawn to kind of investigating that, sort of looking that up, if you're not sure what your Chiron placement is, this can definitely shed some light on that, help you connect some dots for some other sort of like pieces and things you needing to work on with yourself. This may have come to you recently. You may have been focusing on doing that, or it feels like something related to that kind of like wounded warrior placement has surfaced in your life, and you're kind of like, you're at the point right now of being able to recognize that, being kind of at a place energetically of like, this stands in the way of the next phase of your evolution. This is kind of like an aspect of self which has been misunderstood, has, you know, there wasn't even like a concept that there was anything related to this, or, you know, kind of that like this wound rippled out and manifested in like these other aspects of self. This is like deep dive work. This is like truly cultivating not just like surface level peace, but this is like deep shadow peace, coming to an understanding with that, really taking a stand and like you know, choosing yourself over sort of maintaining dissonance or some kind of feeling of lack within. It's like a transitional period. Parts of the shadow you may have been really afraid to kind of look at before. You didn't even know that such things existed or that there was a way to access them. It's taking that deep dive in. It's really kind of confronting some shadows or some things that you were kind of mistaken about. You were self-deceptive about, you know, kind of like trying to overlook red flags or seeing things from an angle that they actually weren't a true representation of. And it's rigorous self-honesty at this point in time, you know, deep subterranean kind of work here. And it feels like this person is almost, they're getting ready, they're kind of like watching your progress, either literally or energetically, like tapping in. Some of these people may be very kind of like psychic or intuitive, or there's just a sense of like connectedness between the two of you where they're sensing you just went really deep into something. You just unlocked some kind of door and you've put up that wall. You've just like, it's almost the idea of like somebody who, you know, you're having a party at your house, there's like all these people, and then all of a sudden someone goes, okay, party's over, everybody get out. And it was just like quick like that, where you've just shifted direction in some way and it's clued this person in, like something has shifted within you and you've got their attention. They're very much focused on you and sort of like, okay, what have you discovered? Where are we going now? They feel very much like a companion energy with you, but very silent in that capacity. Almost just surrendering and kind of going with the flow, going with the motions. Like, okay, we're going to go deep. We're going to dive. okay, I'm game for that. I'm okay to do that. I'm ready to do this work. So again, like parallel path kind of energy, but they're seeing you as kind of a guide or a way shower to this. They're seeing you as really taking the lead in some area of your life, taking responsibility, taking ownership, not of what has occurred to you in the past or how that's kind of manifesting in the present, but you're really taking responsibility for this cleanup work in the now, doing what you can with sort of the tools that you have, the experiences that you have to step into that better version of self, expanding your knowledge in some way of self, and maybe even different healing modalities that you're bringing in that are starting to have, it's almost like dislodging a lot of debris within. Even the energy of sort of directing focus to this has created some kind of peace, some kind of relief or like aha moment where you're now kind of like full force into that. And that this person is like, they're accompanying you in their own way, but not in the sense of just to sort of glean off of this work, but it's almost like you're showing them the way to something within themselves that they hadn't thought, it hadn't occurred to them to look at that. They hadn't known that access to such kind of like root aspects of these wounded parts of themselves was even possible, or was possible in this way. So it's a curious energy. It's again like watching in silence, but definitely somebody who's taking note, very inspired, seeing you as somebody very hardworking and very brave in terms of what you've done recently, what you're doing, and just the way you're sort of changing your relationship with self. This is an energy of like opening up to more compassion for self, not denying yourself the love that you may have been so kind and dutiful to just selflessly give to others. This is like an energy of giving to self, prioritizing peace over a sense of duty and obligation, you know, putting your own needs first, but not in an egoic manner, in a sense of like, I need to keep some in reserve for me at this point in time. I need to like have this nourishment of my own energy because it's going to have to sustain me for this long journey ahead. It's a sense of really seeing you actively in real time, going through the motions, going through the steps to become that love which you are seeking, by creating that sense of like peace and relief within yourself first and foremost. Filling your own cup, or it feels like almost excavating a deeper capacity of that cup to hold love. So it's not just that you're pouring into the current manifestation of like your emotional body. It's almost like you're kind of like you're making that a deeper reservoir within yourself by kind of diving deep, choosing to dive deep, not just turning a blind eye and sort of like repeating patterns, but really being very fearless in how you are looking at yourself and your life at this point in time, which kind of it clears away a lot of debris to your capacity to, you know, experience love within and then to give love without. So definitely this person is very inspired by you. They like the direction that you're headed. They like the way that you are prioritizing things. Again, most likely it feels like something where this is like a no contact period for most of you. It does not feel like this is somebody you're dealing with presently, and if you are dealing with them presently, they're most likely on like the peripheral of your life in some manner, but they're watching you, and they're kind of like, they're going where you go. You're almost making them feel brave enough to start to do some of this work within. It's kind of like, okay, if you can do this, if you can be brave enough to take this step, if you're willing to take this plunge, then I think that maybe I am too. You know, if you can do it, I can do it. So it's like working as a team, but in parallel paths kind of an energy. So I'm going to clarify with a little bit of tarot. Okay, so we've got Five of Wands, which is fire energy, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. 10 of Cups, which is water energy, Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. The Chariot, which is Cancer. And 3 of Cups, so more water energy. So this Three of Cups really talks about that you're getting very serious about the company you're keeping, kind of the who and what you are exchanging energy with at this point in time. This Chariot speaks to, massive movement. You are actively seeking to create some balance within yourself first and foremost in order to be able to give in a more balanced and profound manner to others. And it's something that's very inspirational to this person. They like what they're seeing. You're setting the tone. You're taking the lead, and they're following you in that capacity down this road in some manner. With this Ten of Cups, this really speaks to, they like this. They like that you are prioritizing self. They like that you are that you've almost found this secret passageway to deeper kind of like peace, through self-awareness, to at least be able to look at and to trace some of these steps back to that root wound within yourself, or these things within you that have kind of like manifested as a series of circumstances, or like reoccurrent sort of like stumble blocks or limitations within. It's a sense of no longer being in conflict or in denial with yourself or with your external environment, but that you're really prioritizing a sense of emotional wellness within. Only feeding into things at present that are like mutually feeding into you, prioritizing that sense of like emotional harmony, emotional contentment, and being very quick to kind of like pivot in another direction, to cut things off that are not in alignment with that, to only participate in kind of harmony. Like instead of dissonance, you're choosing harmony at this point in time. And it's very inspirational for this person to start to pick up the pieces in their own life, to really give to themselves in a deeper capacity, not just like one cup of love, but all 10 cups, to really become that fullness of expression within themselves. They see you as standing in like this leadership or this guide kind of energy, with these stars and the canopy on top of the Chariot here. It's really talking about just like this internal navigation. You're going into your personal underworld. You're letting your higher self or instinct really guide you in that sense. And it's inspiring this individual to move as you move, to do as you do, in their own way. It's going to look very different for them, but it feels like the same sort of mechanism of kind of like attacking some of this wounded part of themselves, something they've been very much at conflict about. Maybe, a reoccurring series of disappointments, or just a sense of not being able to really settle into deep comfort within themselves, starting to take a look at that from a different angle. Rather than kind of just criticizing or attacking themselves for that. This is, taking more of that compassionate approach to self. And so it's something where a lot of mirroring going on in this capacity between the two of you, and they're seeing it, as a drastic change from how you were moving through the world previously. If this is someone that's known you for a while, it almost feels that it's very surprising, and they're very happy that you finally have made this decision. You've finally broken ground on like digging deeper within. Not that you were resistant to doing that before, although there may have been. You were only kind of comfortable with sort of creating surface level peace, certain aspects of kind of like internal conflict. It might have felt very off limits, or you up to this point just haven't been ready to do that. But it's almost like you're ready for the whole package. You're no longer settling. You're no longer like fearful of these unknown parts of yourself, this uncharted water. You're ready to kind of like take that deep breath and work more deeply to this, almost becoming your own best friend, or really, creating that sort of like fullness and stability within. And this idea here with this Three of Cups also talks about, the two of you and this individual and spirit really co-creating on this path. So it is quite possible that this is your twin flame. And again, your shift is kind of like encouraging them on some kind of shift. They may be watching you, maybe watching on social media, seeing that you've tightened up in some manner, you've closed off in some manner. Something about you has shifted, what they're sensing energetically. It's almost been that kind of call to action within them. Like a protective energy, a self-protective, but a protective energy as well. Like they're not just going to let you go into this kind of personal darkness alone. They're going to be there energetically with you, kind of fighting this battle with you, alongside you, and feeling that you in turn are also that companion for them, as they are in this process for themselves. So it doesn't feel like something where they're ready to kind of like come in from out in the cold and open up lines of communication. But it's almost like in your parallel paths, you are both, they're sensing you're both the companion for one another on this next step of the journey to each becoming that place of balance within, each becoming that love. You are seeking from outside, and from that place it then opens up the possibility of like reconciling and grounding down into material reality, kind of this higher self union between the two of you at this point in time. So I'm going to get some messages from their higher self and see what does this person want to tell you right now. Okay, and they say, I was not looking for something like this. So as much as they are kind of saying to themselves, okay, we're gonna dive deep, let's go. At the same time, it's very triggering for them, which it feels like is why they're kind of still gonna remain in silence, in the shadows. There's a level of discomfort with like having to confront some things within themselves. There's a lot of growth energy in this. They're very inspired by you. They're very almost happy that you've found a way to heal more deeply within, and yet it's very uncomfortable for them. It's kind of like they're going to reluctantly sort of pick themselves up and accompany you energetically on this journey. They're reluctantly going to pick themselves up and start to kind of like look around within at the deep wounded parts of themselves, and how this is kind of like manifesting in a lot of different circumstances in what is played out with you, and also in kind of like other things in their life at this point in time. And they also say, I know that you know I'm hiding deep feelings for you, and now I feel stuck. So that's that deep dive energy. This really speaks to, you know, beginning to take steps on that path to discovering these core wounds, these prohibitions within, why they feel so drawn towards you, and at the same time so deeply triggered by the nature and intensity of the connection that is offered to them in this situation. If they are, you know, sitting in the silence, this is something where you might almost be able to sort of like feel their energetic presence. It's a sense of, you know, they may have really blended into the background of your energy recently, but you're feeling a stirring. They're stepping forth in some kind of way. That might be a confirmation for you, almost like feeling this very protective energy, like a resurgence from this person energetically speaking, as you are getting ready or have started to take some steps in that kind of deep descent into your personal underworld, like aspects of your own shadow that you had not realized were even factors before. It's territory you haven't ventured into before. So for some of you, this almost feels like a renewal of commitment between the two of you, where you know, they might not be there in a material sense, but energetically they're like, I'm right here. I still am very attached to you. I still have feelings for you. I'm going to accompany you down this road, even if we're doing so at a distance. It's you and me in this process, and that's very like mutually experienced. They also sense you coming forth from sort of where you've blended into the background of their energy, of their experience. Maybe they put you in that place, you know, just kind of like shoved away the energy, created barriers and walls and like a guard against that. But at this sort of turning point where they're going now, what they're starting to explore, it's almost like the higher connection between the two of you, it trumps all of those barricades. It's like there's no reason to be self-protective. This is the time to really step into the deeper implications of this soul contract between the two of you, which is that you have one another's backs, for better or worse, in light and darkness, beyond, you know, health and death and sickness and wellness, all of that. It's, at these kind of like crucial points of movement, these big shifts and pivots, that's when, you will sort of come to one another's aid in a sense. You will make yourselves known to one another energetically as kind of this tool to sort of say, keep going, keep pressing further, because you're not alone in this process. They also say, you are my star who outshines all others. So yeah, they're seeing you as like a guiding light. They're taking note of steps that you are taking in your own life at this point in time, and it's causing them to kind of like look around. You're really helping them to navigate beyond some kind of chapter that is wanting to close out. Maybe there are other things that have kind of fallen apart in their life. They may have found themselves at sort of a liminal space, a lot that they've cleared out or that is needing to be cleared out from their energy and from their existence. Your movement is that kind of clue or beacon to them about a direction they need to pivot, something they need to kind of aspire toward or move toward or shift their attentions towards. And they also say, love isn't always on time. Please be patient with me. So despite the fact that this may have been a long-standing kind of no contact situation, they are still with you. That idea of patience is, it's really tying into this duration, this long term. They are in it for the long haul with you. Beyond lifetimes, it's the two of you together. And it's something to where, this work right now, it might be really leading into some areas that are very uncomfortable for the two of you. It's uncharted territory. It's going to take time to kind of like dig down deep into that shadow, look around, discover, find that truth and wisdom, and then bring that back out into the light, crystallize that into how you are moving through your day-to-day reality, how you're presenting or projecting your energy out for others, what you're then receiving in. So it's really this process of kind of personal alchemy at this point in time that they're letting you know they're involved with this too. They're really you're encouraging one another, you're companions for one another, and kind of nudging one another in those directions in your own kind of particular time and manner. So it's this idea of like the peace and the stillness that at this point in time, whatever has really caught your attention or you've been directed to move toward, they're giving you this reassurance that this isn't deviating you from like a path of the two of you coming into union. This isn't redirecting the focus in a way that's just going to like sabotage some kind of manifestation. This is the doorway. This is the path to the next layer and level of what's possible between the two of you in the future. And they also say, I'm afraid if you touch me, you will destroy me. So this can talk about like dissolution of the ego and ego death, patterns that are needing to be broken through, aspects of karma or repeating cycles and patterns that in some way are being illuminated for this individual more deeply because of illumination you have either received or that you've come to or that you are endeavoring towards within yourself. So there's a lot of fear at this point in time, which ties into that element of this person feeling most comfortable still in the silence, not ready to come forth and say, okay, let's do this deep shadow work, because it's really an inside job at this point in time. There's fear, but they're stepping forth in that personal journey nonetheless. And it's this idea of kind of like not being sure what exists on the other side of that for themselves, for this connection, for the two of you ultimately in the future. But this is someone who may have been really stuck in place. You may have been stuck in place to a certain capacity. And it's like with this chariot and these black and white sphinxes here, it's like two people taking those steps forward, two people being those agents of change for themselves, which opens the door to change in this situation as well in the future. And they also say, I would just hurt you more right now. I need to be alone. So again, a lot of work, internal shadow work that still needs to be done, which feels like why they're kind of making an energetic resurgence in your life at this point in time, just to let you know they haven't gone anywhere. They're still with you at this phase, at this process, at this time, and that this is kind of, it's a crucial juncture for each of you to really dive more deeply into self, work more profoundly on self-love and self-healing, which is an independent inside job than you've been able to do up to this point in time. Like everything up till now has been a preparation. And as much as you might feel very alone in this, you are the companion for one another energetically on this process. And they also say, I can never say it, but I do love you. So more of that energy of like those repressed feelings, that deep love that they hold inside, or that they still hold inside. You know, and it is that love that is kind of that, also that guiding light for the two of you. It's leading you more deeply into yourselves, to that deeper core of love that you hold within, so that you can embody and embrace that, and reflect that out into the world around you, the company you keep, the way you move through the world, the way you touch the lives of other people. And it is also that cord of love which draws the two of you back towards one another on the other side of this very kind of like profound and long awaited aspect of your personal healing journey. They also say, I want to travel the world with you. So more of that companion energy right there. They are with you in this process. They're going into that shadow with you. You are not alone in this time of like investigating your own kind of personal darkness, whatever that might look like, however that manifests for you. You know, they're wanting to let you know that they're traveling there with you. They're traveling in their own capacity into their own sort of internal realm as well. It might be all that's possible between the two of you at this point is that energetic connection. It may even be something where you're feeling this resurgence of them energetically, and then it's going to kind of go cold or silent again. It's sort of like that that kiss farewell, energetically speaking, to just say, I'm still here, I'll see you on the other side, and you both are going like deeply within, that deep breath before that descent. And they also say, I'm taking my time. We have all the time in the world. So again, that element of patience, diligence, work that may have been long overdue, or that just wasn't even accessible before, that you've both reached a level of awareness, even just vibrational elevation, to where now you hold this light within you, that it's possible to illuminate more deeply and understand the true nature of some shadows, some tendencies. Both of these references to the world here, it's like personal karmic patterns that are actively being worked through within each of you at this point in time. And they also say, your picture brings me to tears. So this can be how they're kind of tapping in energetically. They've got a picture saved. They're watching you on social media, you know, taking screenshots, or just kind of picturing in their mind this idea of like that 10 of cups in reality. That on the other side of this heavy lifting and this very kind of like dark descent is the possibility of kind of stepping more into personal light, or the personal light within self, to be able to illuminate a future in the connection with you. There's a lot of nostalgia. It's again this energy of like, I'll see you on the other side of all of this. That this is, it feels like a profound turning point in this situation that is accomplished through both of you digging more deeper into yourselves than you have done up to this point in time. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. We've got X, B, V, I, C, Q, G, U, M, D, and K. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of that out as well. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn Tarot. There's a link in the description box as well as in the channel section of my page for that. If you haven't been over there before, you may want to check it out. The format over there is different from here. I do pick-a-cards and general energy readings, but I cover topics, different kind of topics about spirituality, wellness, self-love. So if you haven't checked it out, please do. And if you have, thank you for your support over there, as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 3. You chose the fairy quartz. So I'm going to start with some oracle cards to see what are their thoughts and feelings about you and the connection right now, and then I'll clarify with some tarot. Okay, so we have the bear and cedar, leadership. The chipmunk and laurel, success. The horse and bluebell, modest fortitude. The dragonfly and pansy, balance. Trick. Freedom. Provide. And work. So this person is seeing you as someone who is freeing themselves from self-imposed limitations. This can be in the form of a lack of self-esteem, aspects of your personality or how you've been moving through the world that may have been a result of upbringing or like an expectation of what you thought you needed to do and be in order to fit in. Things that you may have also kind of contorted about yourself to become a version of someone that you thought they wanted you to be. So there may have been a little bit of people pleasing as like a tendency within you or within this dynamic previously, that they're seeing you have in some way become informed about this, or you're taking steps to stand more in your own authenticity, to free yourself from that sense of, needing to kind of almost be validated or to fit in some way. They see you as kind of like moving away from the herd in some kind of way, forging your own path, maybe something to do with like work, the nature of what you do for work. Maybe you have gone back to school, or you're trying to open your own business. Maybe you're leaning more into spirituality, turning that into a business as compared to, a path that you'd been walking that maybe your family expected for you, or something that just sort of fit in with normal as far as society's conditioning. In some way, you've been in this period of like introspection. You've transformed in some manner. You may have been very sort of materially focused, or feeling that success and fulfillment and the fullness of life was attained through what you could attain in the outside world. There's a sense of prioritizing peace and almost like awareness of self in some manner. The success is not something that's achieved outwardly, but it really comes from within. There's an essence here of being like a change maker, and a sense of becoming and stepping into more of a living example for others, about how to make even sort of the difficult decision to kind of like redirect course, change one's narrative arc. Even if this is something that happens like later in life, or when there's not a lot of people sort of like cheerleading that in a certain way, that you're almost like your own advocate in a sense. They see you as somebody who has freed themselves from a lot of these constraints, maybe even toxic patterns or some kind of a dependency, maybe just even like that people pleasing could be that element of dependency, some kind of connection, some kind of relationship, some kind of tendency or trend, even just some way in which you are holding yourself back and sort of like dimming your shine. They're seeing you in the energy of self-liberation at this point in time, no longer fitting into kind of this illusion or the tricks of the mind that cause you to sort of like second guess who you are, what success means for you very individually, even if that's something that's different from what those around you would sort of want for you. They're seeing you as very courageous, somebody who's in this energy of having cultivated this really good balance between knowing when to just sort of sit in receptive mode and when to act. So it feels like they're seeing you as well as you're actively manifesting some kind of goals or dreams for yourself. You're actively manifesting a better version of self, not just in, kind of the mental space or off in the dream space, although it may have started with like vision boards and dreaming and journaling and just setting those intentions out, but you're doing the work to meet the universe halfway. You're moving into an energy of being able to fill your own cup, really provide, really sustain for yourself. If you were in a connection previously, maybe with this person, and you were a bit dependent on them for like emotional fulfillment, or there was some kind of financial dependence somewhere, they see you as someone working toward that financial independence. You're able to provide for yourself. You're taking care of your own needs, your own kind of like creature comforts on a material sense. You're stepping into this Nine of Pentacles energy, being very self-sustaining, very self-supportive. Maybe even after having kind of trimmed some of the fat out of your life, ways in which you were stretching yourself too thin. Maybe you were over giving to others. You had a lot of people who were kind of dependent on you in a certain manner, and and that could be energetically or financially, and you've really you've kind of raised the bar. You've put up some boundaries that may have been very difficult for you to establish in some way. You're transforming, the way the world sees and perceives you, and the way that this person sees and perceives you, by reclaiming in some manner your worth, your value, your time. Even this is definitely the energy of like work smarter, not harder. In other words, you're not just like pushing and giving and go go go. There's this energy of, being very self-reflective and like, is what I am investing in, is how I am using my time, in the day, but it even feels to have kind of larger spiritual implications. Like, am I using this time on my earth to the greatest advantage? Is this to the maximum potential? Is this what life is really meant to be lived for? Gifts that you may have had within, skills and abilities that maybe others had kind of like tricked you into believing that you should be ashamed of. Maybe these are like psychic gifts, spiritual gifts, artistic, creative pursuits, and you may have really gone down a more practical path and kind of just put these things on the back burner in some way. You had adopted these kind of ideas that other people had that, maybe like, oh, well, you'll never succeed. There's too much competition. That's just a pipe dream. Time to like get down to earth, get down to reality, build something practical. And it's led to this sense of almost like void or like missing something almost within yourself, that you're kind of like moving out of this energy of like a false modesty in some manner, and you're pushing forward. You're really cultivating a sense of greatness within, which is translating in how you're moving through the world. It's changing in how people are seeing you, even if it's something where you're just at kind of the beginning steps of building in a new direction for yourself. This person is seeing you as very courageous, that you are your kind of best cheerleader at this point in time. You're really becoming mindful of almost like the contribution that you're making to the world. Are you just filling time on this planet? Are you just kind of going through the motions? Or are you making this lifetime count? Are you making a difference in the world around you? And this doesn't have to be like some huge mission. For some of you, that might be some kind of calling within, something you're being really guided to produce or to bring forth, and you're finally answering that call. You're starting to do that work, and it feels like it's making this person change their opinion of you almost. They may have seen you as someone who sat on a lot of unactualized potential, very fearful to take risks, where you kind of you were giving your sovereignty or your kind of like your potential away to other things, or you weren't believing in yourself, and so it was not allowing these other things to manifest fully for you. But other than kind of like big sort of like mission or a calling in this life, it almost feels that you're changing the way in which you sort of structure your routine, or how you're moving through the world, or sort of like the influences or forces or factors that you're letting into your reality, into your space, into your energy. And it's changing something within you. You're very much raising that vibration within, so that the impact of the lives of people you touch around you are more positive. You're radiating and glowing the sense of like being very secure in yourself, very confident, almost like a quiet confidence. Like there's no need to just kind of bulldoze through things or to be very prideful. You're in a place of becoming more comfortable in your skin, and it's making other people around you almost gravitate towards you in a sense. Or, you know, maybe people are starting to see you in this light of trustworthiness. You hold some kind of authority within you, like a spiritual authority or an energetic authority, where there's others that are maybe wanting to like learn from you. You may get a lot of people kind of like asking you questions, coming to you for guidance, coming to you for advice at this point in time. And it's something that this individual's like noticing, that they're wanting to draw nearer to your light as well. It almost feels like for some of you, you may be teachers, or, you know, even just kind of bringing forth your own sort of like spiritual practices, maybe things having to do with manifestation or some kind of like personal ascension journey or up-leveling journey. And you could be sharing that with others, even if it's just in the form of like things you post on your personal social media account. The nature of these things, your focus, what you're directing your attention toward, it feels less about the material and kind of the meaning of success in that way. And these are things more of like spiritual substance, soul substance is sort of your focus. It's meaning and value in an intangible sense, as opposed to something quantitative, which you may have really been focused on before, like outward appearances. And now it's sort of like the internal quality is a priority for you. And it's causing this person to like want to scoot in closer. They're wanting to draw nearer to you. They're wanting to hear what you have to say. It's a very positive energy here, where you may have gone through a glow up and like have come out from hiding in a certain sense. You've come out from hibernation, only you've come out better than they left you, or that you kind of like went into. You've stepped into your personal power in some way. You're actively working on yourself. And it's something that this person they're very intrigued by this. They're very interested in this. They like this transformation within you, especially if this is something where they felt you were sitting on a lot of untapped potential within yourself, however that might have manifested then. Outwardly, it's something that they're very pleased that you finally have done this for yourself, that you are no longer kind of like living in this illusion, maybe living in the shadow of somebody else, or are allowing kind of like critics or naysayers, of the past or presently, to kind of deter you from some kind of path that you are on, to stepping more into that authenticity of self. So I'm going to get some tarot to get a little more clarification about this for you. Okay, so we've got the Four of Pentacles, which is Earth energy, Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. Temperance, which is Sagittarius. Seven of Cups, which is water energy, Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. And Queen of Wands, which is fire energy, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. So this Queen of Wands, this is talking about that they find you very attractive. They're very magnetized towards you. Your light is burning brighter than ever. And it's a very pleasing thing. They see you as somebody who's not sitting in ego, but you're very humble, and yet you're very determined, very unapologetic of just being yourself at this point in time. They see you as somebody who's very you're a lot more discreet with your energy. You're a lot more discerning with where you are investing. You've changed your priorities in some way, or maybe even restructured your life in a substantial manner in the material world with this Four of Pentacles. It's like you've trimmed the fat. You really are just investing in, you know, things that have true value, true worth, rather than maybe an element of frivolity or just kind of an aimlessness that you might have been in before, or sort of investing in the wrong things, you know, kind of pouring into bottomless pits, so to speak, maybe having to do with addictions that you've managed, that you've conquered, you've triumphed over within yourself with this idea of temperance, or just being a little more discerning about the company that you're keeping, valuing yourself more. This is like the energy of self-worth here, really loving yourself, really stepping into that place of knowing your value and knowing your worth, knowing, what rooms are meant for you, prioritizing the value of that energy and the gifts that you have and who you are and where you're going to pour that forth into the world. They see you as really standing in this very angelic energy as well, that you bring a lot of like higher wisdom and knowledge and guidance, even if it's just in very casual things that you say, or in the way that you shine your light from this place of authenticity. It speaks of authority. There's something about you that almost, it speaks of this transformation within you. Some of you may be very vocal about that, and it's inspirational to others. You draw others towards you, and you help others to kind of like understand all these possibilities, all this unactualized potential within them. They see you as somebody who's really opened a lot of roads for yourself, or you have a lot of choices at this point in time. The future, which may have been very kind of like one tracked, or in some way it was minimal, it was very just linear for you in the future, or in the past, that you've opened up new horizons and possibilities. They see you as somebody who is able to accomplish a lot because you've tapped into this personal power within. You've really like drawn down into the material world a lot of this higher potential, this untapped potential. And it's something that this person and others are really looking to that as an example, to emulate or to mimic in some manner. Again, maybe like coming to you for advice, coming to you for help. Maybe some of you are healers, you're teachers, you're guides, you're doing things as far as like spirituality is concerned, and sharing that with other people. You're an inspiration to other people in a very positive manner. You're shining your light very, very brightly and very courageously. Whatever you're doing or whatever you've done, it's really working for you. This person is seeing that this looks good on you. This confidence, this success, and a sense of like knowing yourself and valuing yourself, it's a good look on you. And it's really enticing them. It's drawing them closer like a moth to the flame. They want to observe. They want to learn from you. You've piqued their interest. You've garnered their interest once again. In a lot of ways, you're standing out from the crowd as well. And this is something that's very intriguing to them. There's a part of your personality that may have been kind of like shut down or dormant before, that in some way is now more openly expressed. And they're very fascinated by this. They want to learn from you. They want to grow from you. They're very much like enjoying the show. They're enjoying this kind of, it's like the energy of sunrise almost. You're getting brighter and brighter. Your impact on the world, how you're moving through life, the quality of life that you're living, and kind of the things that you're participating with, it's taking on more meaning and value and substance than it had before. And it's something that it's reflecting very positively to this person. They're very much inspired by you. This is an energy of being very proud of you, very in awe of you, and perhaps even putting you on a bit of a pedestal, seeing you from a different kind of angle than they had before. This temperance is bringing to mind the idea of like they almost feel like in the past that they had overlooked you, and now they're seeing that they were entertaining an angel in some way, but they may have just sort of dismissed you as like this kind of average or ordinary sort of person, but they're seeing you as like an earth angel, that you have really called forth and brought out more into the material reality. This higher element of yourself. It's different from who you were before. It's different from most people. There's something very special and unique about kind of the light that you hold within. And they're leaning into this essence of like, it's a gift to be able to watch you, or to be able to, have participated with you. They're seeing the impact that you've made on their life in the past from a very different angle. It feels that they're trying to just remain kind of quiet and closed off. They're very much in observation mode, not wanting to deliver this truth or speak this truth, but it's almost like it's increasing in value. They're kind of like dealing with you, or the way in which they, as they think about like the possibilities of, should I say something? Maybe should I come back from the past? Should I bring some kind of like heartfelt offer, some kind of resolution, or open that door again? They're leaning into more and more of that energy of certainty, that this is a direction that would be good for them to move in. But at this point in time, they're kind of just like watching you very intently, very fixed, very focused on you at this point in time. You've captured their attention in a very positive manner at this point in time. So I'm going to get some messages from their higher self and see what do they want to tell you right now. Okay, and they say, you are my destiny. Yeah, so they're very drawn to you. This is a no contact situation. They are actively making plans to return, very captivated by you, a sense of your story's not over, your paths are meant to cross again. You in some way may be inspiring this person to step more into their personal truth, let more of their light shine openly in the world. Aspects of themselves that they had maybe just been going through the motions in order to try to fit in, to blend in, to be hidden in plain sight. A sense of you really marching away from that well-trodden path in your own direction. It's encouraging them to stand in that personal truth and authenticity in the same way that you do. It's a sense of something more that's meant to be experienced with the two of you further down the road. You're challenging this person to step into that angelic energy within themselves, or to realize their capacity to actively be a force of change for the positive in the world around them through first and foremost becoming that force of change for the better within themselves. They also say, you're the only person in the world who really scares me. So they may view you as very psychic, very intuitive. You can see right through them. You can see through the mask, through the illusion, see into the soul of this person. Just as they had recognized a lot of untapped potential within you, it feels like you've also recognized that within them. You may have said things in the past, even words of encouragement, little peculiarities about this person or small details that might have been overlooked or shunned by other people. You picked up on these things and you've encouraged them, maybe even through your living example, to feed into these things, bring these things up from where they had maybe been relegated to the shadow or a place of like shame or dismissal, and to bring that more into the dominant and outward personality. And it's very frightening to have somebody that sees those aspects, sees that potential, and is almost shining a light in that direction, which could be so different from how everyone else in their life up to this point in time has, perceived maybe like an artistic part of them, a creative part of them, some part of themselves that is like, it's a core quality. It's inherent in their light. It might be part of their higher purpose. And so just as they were sort of maybe even judging you in a sense very quietly of like, oh, this person doesn't live up to their potential, they can be doing so much better for themselves. It almost feels that they perceive that same almost sense of scrutiny or awareness within you towards them. Even if you didn't say anything outwardly, they may have felt very judged by you in the past. And that is kind of scary. You almost sort of like represent a mirror for them of, here's the ways in which you're standing in the way of that own highest potential. And here's something that you could be leaning in toward to almost make the quality of your time on this earth in this incarnation matter a lot more by fulfilling some kind of destiny, bringing forth and utilizing some kind of like inherent gift, some kind of divine gift, some aspect of the personality that's been kind of sequestered or shut down. And they also say, I was not looking for something like this. So a deeply magnetic connection, a deeply intense connection. As much as they may have tried to forget about you, ignore you, push you away, they can't help but watch from afar and be very much inspired. You inspire them to change, and they may be trying to like cling to their material reality, cling to the status quo in a sense, but they're very fascinated, kind of like watching how you move, seeing how you're doing it, and it's causing them to almost like dip their toe in the water of that possibility of like, well, what if I just took a step outside of my comfort zone? What if I did just one thing different today? And what would that be like? It feels like they've had their eye on you so intently. They've almost seen you every step of the way in this. They've seen some kind of transformation to where you're making it look a lot easier than they had originally sort of anticipated such things would be. This feels like someone who had a lot of sort of deferred dreams, things that were just off in fantasy. They dismiss this as illusion. This can't be. Maybe in another lifetime, you know, in other circumstances, in the perfect world, I'd be doing this, whatever that is. And it's something where, as you've kind of brought this untapped potential within out into the material world, it's encouraging them to look at themselves in a different way as well. And they also say it's easier to stay away now than lose you later. So they may recognize that they've got some work within themselves. They're kind of just like basking in your light. They've drawn nearer to your light, but there's light within themselves that they are also needing to, you know, kind of bring forth, so that it's a connection of equal give and take. You're inspiring them to change, and a little bit of that has to do with like stepping through an element of fear. Maybe they might feel a bit rusty about something that they're trying to bring forth, some kind of skill or ability, some changes that need to take place within their life, or, you know, even the changes that you've made. It's causing them to look around at the life that they're living and saying, this is not an adequate match. The vibration of this, the frequency of this, maybe even like habits and patterns with that temperance card, addictions, to anything, to materialism, to work, to, you know, certain like beliefs, beliefs of self, even substances, you know, any kind of like toxic habits and behaviors, that these things need to be regulated or in some way neutralized within their own life before they are able to kind of match you at that frequency, before they're a constructive force in your life rather than something of dissonance, that it feels like they're very much aware at kind of the frequency you're at right now. You won't tolerate a whole lot of nonsense. So until they kind of like heal and grow beyond and shed an outdated skin of theirs, that it's kind of best for them to just sort of watch from the sidelines. And they also say, you are my star who outshines all others. So more of that inspiration of being very inspired by you, very proud of you and the steps that you've taken to change your life, to step into your truth, maybe come out in a public sense about something, work you're doing of a spiritual nature, or, you know, even just things in a very mundane sense. Maybe you were working like a 9-to-5 job for a company, and you've gone back to school. You're taking these steps to kind of like better your situation. You're opening your own business. You're turning a hobby into like a side hustle. You're prioritizing health and wellness, just whatever that has to do with, whatever that looks like. It's something that it's very inspirational. It's inspirational to this person. It's inspirational to others. You are actively that agent of change for the positive, and it's something that they really like what they see. They also say, I can see eternity in your eyes. So again, this idea of like the story is not over between the two of you. You are their destiny. You are destined to meet again. There's more to this story. There's more to this tale than what has been written up to this point in time. And this idea also with the eyes is really talking about like the windows to the soul, that there's something within their soul that they're needing to excavate and bring forth. You encourage them to see more deeply beyond appearances, beyond how they've been moving through the world up to this point in time, or who people told them that they should be. This is both triggering and encouraging. They feel very challenged in a positive and a negative way by you, but they are very fixated on you and just kind of like watching, seeing, taking notes, leaning a little more deeply in. The brighter you shine your light, the closer they come towards you. They also say, you feel like a warm home to me. So it's a very positive and radiant energy. If they had been fighting their feelings previously, they are again leaning in closer, trying to bask in the glow of this light of authenticity, this light of love that you radiate. You're beckoning them. You are magnetizing them in simply by focusing on yourself, doing that work to kind of bring forth that untapped potential more into the material reality, to be more of who you authentically are, what resonates with you as opposed to what others have told you you should be and do. And they also say, you're my treasure. So that's tying into that idea of like the Four of Pentacles, where they're holding you very close to their heart. As much as they may be silent, they may be just kind of stonewalling, giving the impression that they don't even see, they don't care, they don't notice what's going on with you. It couldn't be farther from the truth. You are very high value to them. They are looking at kind of what they are able to observe, what they're able to glean, what they're able to really take in and register of this glow up within you, and it's affecting them in a very positive manner. Their opinion of you is changing in a very positive manner. They're seeing you in this situation as something that, if they do the work within and come back and choose to invest in this situation, that there's a lot of growth potential here. And they also say, I miss your sunshine in my life so much. So more of that energy of like the star and that idea of like sunrise and, this glow up, this sense of standing in your own sovereignty, taking your power back, bringing forth that untapped potential. It's having a very positive effect. They're seeing you in a light that they didn't know was possible before. They honestly, it feels like, didn't believe that you were capable of all of this, maybe in such a short time or ever. So a little bit of doubt that highlights as well. Whatever they're projecting, it's really a reflection of what's going on within. So as much as they're almost being like proven wrong about some sort of transformation that you're making, that you're in the midst of, or that you have made, it's almost highlighting within them doubts that are holding them back from sort of following suit, doing the same in their own sort of way, to where now it's like the truth is shown that it is possible. It's possible to change. It's possible to redirect course. It's possible to, step more deeply into one's own authenticity. It's possible to break out of patterns and trends and habits of playing small or dimming one's light to fit in. And so you're illuminating for them the truth of kind of where a deeper place of peace and kind of living their life to the fullest, where that's possible. It's possible outside of the comfort zone. It's something beyond how they've been living up to this point in time. And so you're very much inspiring them in that capacity. And they also say, am I good enough for you? So a bit of that lack mentality, a sense of knowing that they need to make some changes within themselves. They don't feel good enough yet to match you at this frequency, to, really add anything comparable to the measure of your existence. They're seeing you having really prioritized, changed your priorities. You're prioritizing self and wellness in a major way, abundance in a major way. And it's motivation for this person. Like, do you want to just continue to sit on the sidelines, watch from afar, bask in this light from afar, or to really capitalize on, to resume this story, or to rewrite the ending in this story, to really get with the program and start to make changes, very individualized changes, but something along that same vein of kind of taking the raw materials of experience and what is harbored within, and finding some way to like alchemize their life in a very personal manner. You're inspiring them to do that, so just keep doing what you're doing, because they're definitely taking note of that in a very positive way. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or it can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Okay, we've got Y, C, J, W, V, K, F, T, X, H, and O. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of that out as well. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn Tarot. There's a link in the description box as well as in the channel section of my page for that. If you haven't checked that second channel out, you may want to do so. It's different from what's going on over here. There are pick-a-cards as well as general energy readings, but it covers different kinds of subjects related to spirituality, wellness, and self-love. So if you haven't checked that out, please do. And if you have, thank you so much for your support over there, as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 4. You chose the Chrysoprase. So I'm going to start with some oracle cards to get a general overview of how they are, what they are thinking and feeling about you at this time, and then I'll clarify with some tarot. Okay, so we have the rooster and sunflower, communication. The squirrel and chestnut, preparation. The trout and lily of the valley, purification. The snail and huckleberry, trust in the invisible. Cunning. Joy. Sacred. And balance. So they are seeing you as somebody who is deeply connected with spirit. You are seeking your own counsel at this point in time. Getting messages, getting downloads, or seeking advice and kind of guidance moving forward, either about this situation with this person or in general at your life, in your life at this point, based on some kind of like higher level input. It's almost like answering a call that only you can hear. You're kind of compelled by forces greater than yourself. In some way, you may have taken a big sort of like a quantum leap on your own personal ascension path. You're growth oriented. You're in a very positive energy. You may have been through some challenges, and it's almost like you've come out on top from these things. You've really taken the wisdom from experiences that for other people might have broken them, might have embittered them, times where the chips were down, and you have really used kind of outside of the box thinking with this cunning energy, coupled with like signs and intuitive nudges, your guide saying, come this way, move in this direction, and it has helped you to move through some kind of like ripple of change within your life. They're seeing you as somebody who's very adaptable. You have a very unique ability to overcome, to really make the most of sort of like the tools and the resources that you have within and around you to create positive change for yourself. They're seeing you as somebody who's, really kind of like planning for the future, who's very much, and this could even just be the future in a spiritual sense, like you're focused on ascension and matters of the soul and kind of like working through karma, closing out some patterns, no longer repeating cycles unnecessarily in preparation for like lifetimes to come, or so that some big lessons in this lifetime can be really sorted through, things that might have been recurrent patterns for you. Things very internal with this idea of like the invisible, like the subconscious, the cunning kind of, these tricks of the ego in some manner, or like deeply embedded kind of shadows that had manifested in, maybe a need to kind of keep regenerating yourself out of circumstances, things that really were like a failure to launch, or, a lot of circumstances where you were kind of just getting in your own way. You might have been very careless with the company that you were keeping. You weren't valuing yourself in some manner, squandering your resources, squandering your energetic resources, and then in some way you've turned very kind of positive corner for yourself. You're really investing in self. You're starting to look before you leap, in a sense, and really taking stock of what you've been through in order to be that kind of agent of change for yourself. No longer waiting for closure or resolution, no longer necessarily giving other people so much of the benefit of the doubt, or allowing other people to kind of like unnecessarily project their shadows and distortions upon you and keep you limited and stuck in some manner, that you've broken through of a lot of things, or you've been almost like shown, or you're following the path to a different way of doing and being. You have gone through some kind of a glow up, or you're in this transformational period to where it might have been very uncertain kind of what the result of that would have been. It could have gone either way. It's something that either could have like kept you trapped in a lot of cycles, or instead it's almost like you took a different road. You took the road less traveled. You really have been operating on faith in a certain manner, and it's led you to a very unexpected place of abundance that maybe this person in the past thought you didn't have this ability to regenerate within you. They're seeing a lot of strength and dexterity within you, energetically speaking, at the soul level, and even in terms of like life skills, in a sense. It's just a very quick recovery, or a very profound bounce back from something, maybe even through your dealings with them, that they kind of just left you in a very sort of heartbroken or vulnerable place in some manner. And you've utilized that experience to become wiser, to become more compassionate. This kind of like dark energy, it has been something that has almost brought you closer to your higher self, your guides, your spirit team, source, your angels, your ancestors. They almost might have felt that you were just kind of like stumbling in the dark in some manner, and you've illuminated for them in some way that it feels like it's also helping them to sort of reframe themselves and start to ask questions within themselves in some manner, as far as you never really were alone in these dark places. That this was almost like this sort of like primordial womb through which this other version of yourself was being created. You really are sort of this living example for this individual of the power of divine intervention, the power of prayer, maybe the power of spirituality even. You may have come out of a very dark chapter, and you've almost come out in this place of almost illumination or enlightenment. You've come out more peaceful, more radiant than you were before, which defies the odds in some manner. It's very confusing to this person. It's something that they don't quite see how you've done this, how you've managed to kind of like wiggle your way out of some sort of trap or some kind of circumstances that had been, presented to you, maybe things that were coming in from all sides, and you've utilized this. It's almost been the chaos that was the fuel for change for you. So they're seeing you as somebody who's a lot more flexible, who's a lot more prepared now for kind of the twists and turns life may hold. You've kind of like cultivated a plan, or you've been through like the rinse cycle in a sense of like a major transformation, and it looks good on you. You look a lot better than in the condition that they found you, or that they last left you in a certain manner. And it's very perplexing to them, but it's also kind of like making them want to search within and ask some kind of questions within. This might even be something where you have emerged and you're a lot more spiritual, you're more open about that. You're starting to profess and express things that they could be like watching from afar, or even like hearing about these things through sort of like third party word of mouth through the grapevine. And it's opening their mind. It's causing them to question concepts, beliefs, ideas that had never been part of their normal lexicon. It hadn't been part of their wheelhouse. You're bringing forth a lot of concepts that, are shedding light on aspects of self that it's resonating. A lot of this is ringing true with them, and you're kind of like the light to these different rabbit holes that they are then needing to go down. So it feels like they're learning a lot from you, not just in terms of like energetically taking notes, but something that you're bringing forth, some kind of knowledge, maybe even like higher guidance. You may have really tapped into your higher self. You could be a channel. You could literally have a channel. You bring forth some kind of like spiritual knowledge or wisdom or information, or just in how you're interacting with people, that it's something that it's making this person really like ask questions. They didn't see you in this light before. They couldn't perceive this part of yourself was not apparent, or it was inaccessible to you. through some kind of like death and rebirth process for you. You've almost kind of like stepped into a fuller expression of who you are. It's like Phoenix from the ashes kind of energy right here, which it feels like is it's very stunning for this person. It's very kind of confusing. They may also be a little bit skeptical about it in some manner, or they're kind of just like looking for the strings that are attached to that. They may be kind of like scrutinizing you in a sense, or kind of like saying, is this real? Is this for real? Is this believable? This is so different than the person that I used to know. This is so different from what I expected the outcome in this person's circumstances would be. How did they overcome all of this? How are they still smiling out of all of this? How have they found joy and meaning and purpose out of these circumstances? This could even talk about like alchemizing some disappointment or heartbreak in the situation with them, and that they're feeling this, like you're radiating at a higher frequency where you may have almost felt like an anchor to this person. They may have walked away from you and kind of just left you in this very sort of low vibrational pining for them kind of energy, very sort of like broken or depleted. And now you're outshining them in a lot of ways. It's a bit of kind of almost like competitiveness or jealousy in some manner, almost like them wanting to sort of puff out their chest and be very like boastful and sort of like, well, you're not going to out spiritualize me. You're not going to outdo me. Like, how did you have such a comeback? They may have seen you as kind of like an underdog before, and now you're the top dog in a sense, is like how they're really looking at that. You've really, a painful transformation has brought out some kind of beauty or radiance within you that they had not noticed before. Other people had not known was possible. It's something that almost defies the expectations, or it's almost, given these sort of circumstances or the nature of these things, this is not common. People don't come through situations like this looking energetically, or even just like glow up, or the way you're living your life so much better. That it's almost like the darkness that you faced was what was necessary to make your true authenticity shine. And so it's something that really, it's almost like leaving this person speechless in a sense. And they're just like, okay, I don't know what to think about this, but I'm curious. I want to know more. And they're kind of like trying to look at it from every sort of angle, to scrutinize, to see sort of what's the catch here, and not finding any catch, asking other kind of questions, maybe even like for the first time or the first time in a while, they're starting to go within and, seek that higher guidance, create that conversation with their higher self or with their spirit team, maybe even like divination, other sort of aspects within themselves, to get sort of like clues or indicators or answers about these things. And it's actually a doorway to opening up those lines of communication, to strengthening something spiritually within them, precisely because they're trying to figure out how this was all possible with you. So I'm going to get some tarot to get a little clarification about this. Okay, so we've got the Eight of Wands, which is fire energy, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Two of Wands, so more fire energy. Nine of Swords, which is air energy, Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra. And Temperance, which is Sagittarius. So yeah, with this Temperance, they're seeing you in a very balanced energy. You've cultivated some kind of peace for yourself. You've put a lot of anxiety, distress, or like a painful cycle, maybe through dealing with them or like other things in your life in general, or just, a combination of factors. You're now you've evolved in some way. You've come out of this situation with a lot more self-awareness. You're a lot more connected to spirit, to source, to your higher self. You've cultivated something spiritually within you, and it's creating a lot of confusion and like a sense of lack within them. There's almost a sense of that they slept on this connection. They didn't see this potential within you, and it's making them feel almost like left out in the cold, or kind of like an actualization of the fear of missing out, a choice to move in another direction. Maybe if this was even like Two of Wands can sometimes talk about choice. If this had been something where they made you feel like an option, they chose somebody else. It's almost like a sense of that they made the wrong choice, because that other person, it's things might be fine on like the surface level, but they don't have this added element, this extra layer, almost like superpowers is what's coming through here. So this can even just talk about like a sense of serenity within, that is, you know, that tranquility within, that ability to kind of like overcome, to personally alchemize circumstances, that it's not a quality that all people possess within. And the person that they may be currently with, or that they had chosen over you, lacked that. There may have been challenges that arose in that situation with the other person, and it fell apart. That person didn't have the follow through. The connection didn't have what it takes to kind of overcome those obstacles. And so they're almost like a wrong choice was made. That if they had chosen to invest more deeply in you, they would be at kind of like a different place in their life, or you know, the relationship, like them being in a relationship in general, that would still be something intact. They're almost seeing you as somebody who you add more to the measure of their life, and being at a distance from you, it's, you know, there is that profound kind of just like a sense of, what have I done? This is irreplaceable. I've moved away from something that was almost like hidden in plain sight. It had this value within that I wasn't able to see. Eight of Wands can talk about, they may be asking people about you, or just kind of something energetically within you, something that you communicate, maybe outwardly, something you bring forth about your personal journey, or just any kind of expression at this point in time. They're taking note of that. It's registered to them. They're starting to get a lot of downloads. They're starting to really look outside the box to find answers like, how is this possible? How did you do this? How did you come to this place of, you know, you're moving from anxiety and despair, and like the chips are stacked against you, and now you're in this place of like balance. Like, you've transcended all of that. You've made that work for you. What's your secret? What's the recipe for this? But it doesn't feel like they can come right out and ask you. They're kind of like watching from a distance with this Two of Wands right here, maybe a bit too prideful to admit that they were wrong, to try and collaborate with you, to try and make amends. So it feels very much just observing, and kind of like crying over spilt milk a little from the distance, from the background, as you just keep like moving forward in this energy of, you're radiating a lot of positivity and joy. So it's very inspirational, and yet very triggering for this person. They feel at a loss. They feel very like the tools that they had for like self-mastery, or, you know, kind of like where they're at their life. It's in general at this point, it's almost like they're comparing sort of to what you have and what you've created, which comes from within, and it feels like an imbalance, like it's a mismatch. It's a motivation for them to start to kind of think outside of the box in some manner. Concepts that you're bringing forth, even just in this process of trying to like research and sort of like figure out your secret in some way. It is opening and expanding their mind to things they'd never thought about, aspects of self they hadn't prioritized. They hadn't looked at these things as strengths. They hadn't seen much value in these things before. It ties in with the way in which they may have not seen much value in you and the connection before, but you're almost like this sort of living example, that maybe things that they had been very like troubled by within themselves, that this is actually like an untapped source of power, rather than using these things as kind of like limits, or keeping that toxicity all within themselves. They're very inspired to like transmute, to create balance, but they don't feel at a point of being able to kind of like speak openly to you about that. So they're sort of just like watching in silence, but it's a little bit of like a competitive energy, like, okay, I better get my act together in some way, because I don't want this person to continue to outshine me and outdo me in some kind of a manner. So almost this competitive edge of themselves is kind of working to create some necessary changes that, you know, may in the future, if you'd be interested in reconciliation with them, this is the way to get there. They're needing to sort of do this work, or it almost feels to be something that's like part of your soul contract to inspire others. They may have inspired you to change through kind of situations of heartbreak, ghosting, leaving you in the darkness with all of this kind of like anguish, and you've alchemized that into the better version of self. Vice versa, you're standing in your truth. You're standing in this very kind of like balanced and self-aware version is triggering and activating that process of them really needing to kind of step up their game and as far as how they're moving through the world, the relationship with self in some manner. So it almost feels like coming full circle in activating one another. They've activated you. You've grown and learned through kind of like pain and despair in a sense, and you're really activating them, kind of tapping into this competitive side for them to really seek and to look within and to kind of like grow and expand in some manner. So I'm going to get some messages from their higher self and see what does this person want to tell you right now. Okay, and they say, it's like we're star-crossed lovers. Will we ever make it work? So definitely a sense of like competition, that you now exist on a different plane than them, a different vibration than them. And it's creating this motivation in kind of a backwards sort of way, a bit of competition to reach you, to like be eye to eye with you in some manner. It's you're sparking and instigating change within them that is motivated by kind of these lower forces within them, but nevertheless it's causing them to kind of like uproot, to try and seek a different way of like moving through the world, inspired by you, and also so that you won't kind of like outdo them. And in a sense, it's almost tying into this energy of you know, you're kind of like, you've moved sort of like into another plane of reality, another galaxy. You're now at a distance. You're now this kind of like guiding light for them, where they may have been sort of moving in one direction, very motivated by other things. You've caught their attention like a comet shooting across the sky, and there's this urge to kind of like follow suit, to catch up in some manner. In a lot of ways, it's almost like they've dropped something that they were extremely focused on. You're at this point in your personal journey where you captivated their attention, and it's causing them to want to make drastic change within themselves, or just kind of an acute focus upon you. They almost might have just dismissed you, or, you know, tried to kind of forget you, and just sort of again, like dismissed you as sort of like a lost cause in some manner. And now it's like your star is on the rise, literally or figuratively. And it's almost like, wait a minute, I did not see this coming with this person. Let me try to catch up and figure out what's going on there. And they also say, can we just kiss all night? So this can talk about wanting to kiss and make up, but again, this idea of they have to rise to the occasion to meet you. Where they are operating at right now, most specifically motivated by kind of some of this toxicity, a bit of jealousy that they are having right now, that this is something they are needing to transcend in order to like reach that loving place of peace within, to be able to bring peaceful vibrations to you, to create some kind of reconciliation or balance in this circumstance. And they also say, my entire being and body is attracted to you. So you have definitely caught their attention. Your glow up, your transformation, your rising from the ashes, like the phoenix that you are, has not gone unnoticed by them. They may have heard about this. Energetically, they sensed something. Maybe something came through on an algorithm, and all of a sudden they see you, they see your face, and it's like, wow, when I last saw that person, they were down and out, and now it's a completely different story. They are completely changed. What happened? I need to learn more. I need to see more. I need to try and uncover the secret and the mystery of this. But again, they feel like they're at a distance from that. They're attracted to you. But it's almost like you're outside of one another's orbit at this point in time. They are almost like, it feels like they're on the ground with a telescope, sort of like watching you in this kind of, this way in which you've raised your vibration, or you're almost living your best life, a better life. You're focused on joy rather than kind of like stuck in an energy of lack and despair. And it's they're sort of in this energy of like, how do I get up to that place? How do I get on equal footing? How do I kind of like rise to the occasion to meet this person? They also say it's like we share the same mind and heart. So they may be being clued into, feelings that they have for you, they had just dismissed, that have now sort of burst back to life in a certain manner. And it feels like they could be grappling with that a lot. Like, is this just motivated by changes that you've made? Or is this truly something that they felt within the whole time that they were in denial about? A bit of guilt and shame that may accompany that as well. A sense of, again, this kind of like the shared mind and heart that feels like they activated you through very kind of painful circumstances, and you're activating them through kind of this lower nature motivation to compete. Nevertheless, you both have kind of like triggered some sort of awakening, some sort of arrival at like a higher version of self than what was possible prior to encountering one another. So this definitely could be like a twin flame situation. We've got those two wands here as well, which can confirm that for you also. But it's this idea of almost, it feels like you reached a certain point in your journey that this person was just kind of like clued in. All of a sudden you were like back on their radar. They may have just had this kind of urge to seek you out, to Google you, to find information, or things just came to them seemingly by coincidence. And it's like all of a sudden you're back in the center stage for them. You're back in this focus for them. But it might even be at a point where you're no longer paying attention to them. Your focus is elsewhere. Your focus is on self. It's on some kind of abundance, something that you've really kind of crafted or created for yourself, and now they are in this role of a spectator. They may have felt like they left you out in the cold, but they are now seeing that it is them who is out in the cold from your life. And it's a sense of wanting to exchange ideas with you, wanting to really come to a meeting of the minds, but that there's almost like research, catch up, growth that they need to do within themselves in order to be able to kind of like get back to this sort of level playing field with you. And they also say you are always safe with me. So this feels to be something that's kind of like a future intention. A part of them, as much as they are motivated by kind of this like lower nature and the jealousy, there is a sense of like wanting to become a safe space for you, understanding on some level that the changes that you've made, you might be very reluctant to let this person back in again, especially based on like your personal history with one another, the circumstances they may have left you in, the kind of down and out energy that fueled your personal transformation, that there's a sense of like you've raised your standards in a way, or, based on that history with one another and sort of what you've triumphed over, what you've overcome, that it requires an up leveling on their part to be able to kind of like enter into your proximity, to be able to create that communication forward, to be able to bring forth reconciliation. It requires something within themselves first and foremost. They also say, I miss your sunshine in my life so much. So again, more of that energy of your glow up, your glowing presence. And they are feeling now out in the cold. They're very acutely recognizing at this point in time what they missed out on, what they slept on, what they overlooked in some manner. Or even just kind of like seeing you in an energy of like awe, that you really, there is jealousy here, but there's also this energy of amazement that you have come out on top, out of these circumstances, out of that chapter in your life, out of that particular vibration. And it's something that's illuminating for them ideas, paths of change they didn't even know was possible, the potential to really grow and to evolve, even if it's just subtly, like energetically speaking. It's something that they're able to perceive that's like beyond words, that is cluing them into and highlighting maybe like limits within, self-imposed limitations, things they've been settling for, ways in which they're even needing to be motivated by this kind of like low vibrational sort of like jealousy, competitive kind of energy. You're the living example of kind of the blocks within themselves that keep them from stepping into the most loving version of self. And they also say, I want to travel the world with you. So this can tie into a desire to create communication from afar, to wrap up some sort of cycle with you. There is a motivation to revisit this, to reconnect with you, to move in closer, to have some kind of direct contact, but a sense of it's going to take journeying on their part in order to be able to reach a place, maybe a place within themselves. Maybe they're very fearful of how you would receive them after what has happened in the past, a sense of you being out of touch in some way. You're out of reach in some manner. They now find themselves on the outskirts of your life. They're on the outside of your circle and maybe looking for a way to try to get back in. And they also say, no one lights me up and inspires me like you do. So again, kind of through an unconventional means and method, you are inspiring this person to change, and the motivation for that, even if it comes from a competitive place, from a low vibrational place, something needed to get this person moving in the direction of change. And so it feels to be something that they've got the potential to kind of like rise and ascend from beyond that. At a certain level in their personal journey, there will be no room for that kind of toxicity and vibration. That's a hurdle that they will need to face within themselves if they want to continue to grow. But it's something where just you being you has caused them to very instantaneously get unstuck from something that they might have even convinced themselves they were very content living their life a certain way, very unbothered. They were very much just like in the moment, in the delusion, and you've awakened them to like this possibility of more. They don't want to miss out. You've really triggered within them a fear of missing out, although it feels for a lot of you, they left you out in the cold. But now that you're kind of like beyond that in a certain manner, now they're feeling left behind, and it's inspiring them to make some long overdue changes within themselves. And they also say, I constantly feel you running through my veins. So they feel very connected to you, despite what has happened, despite the time and distance. This may be very confusing, something that they are starting to look into. Maybe they're researching soul connections. Why do I still feel so tied to this person after all this time? Dormant feelings that had gone into hibernation mode within. It feels like when they have sensed this change, or whatever they've seen, whatever information they've come across, it's almost reignited these old feelings within them that are burning brighter than ever. And it's very confusing. It's very agitating. And yet it is drawing them in the direction of, I have to change. I have to know more. I want to explore this further. This is definitely somebody who's discontinued running, and they're like, the runner's now become the chaser in this circumstance. They also say your face haunts me day and night. So if you have a social media platform or presence, it feels like they're almost addicted to watching you in a certain sense. They're like your biggest fan. They're trying to take in everything. They may be seeing a lot of signs and reminders about you, synchronicities that are just coming in full force. Something that has been awakened within them, this curiosity that's been re-sparked. Even just something you've done very independently, very quietly. You've reached a level in your ascension to where it's now activating kind of that other clause in your soul contract with one another, where they're very clued back into your energy. They can't run anymore. Any kind of like sleepiness that they were in, they've been jolted awake, almost like with ice water poured on them or something. It's very kind of like a startling, like they're just fixated on you at this point in time, and it's creating the sense of urgency, like, I can't escape this. I can no longer turn this off. I can no longer stuff this away. So long overdue kind of like work that they needed to do on themselves. They're definitely like, now's the time to take care of this. Sleepy time is over. Pressing the snooze button is over. It's time to grow. It's time to ascend. And it feels like, again, very much driven by kind of like the ego and the lower nature, but it's something that got them moving. This is somebody that's at this pace of like wanting to catch up, wanting to see more, wanting to learn more, wanting to investigate more about this, wanting more information, very fixated on you at this point in time. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Okay, we've got F, S, H, R, P, G, B, D, W, V, A, and L. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of those out as well. And I've launched a second channel here on YouTube, which is called Lady of the Dawn Tarot. There's a link in the description box as well as in the channel section of my page for that. If you haven't checked that out, you may want to do so. The format over there is different from here, but interesting all the same. It consists of pick-a cards and general energy readings related to different kinds of subjects in the realm of spirituality, ascension, and self-love and wellness. So if any of that sounds interesting, I invite you to check that channel out. I thank you for your support there as well as for your continued support here on this channel. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.